Illustrating just how badly Kathleen Kennedy has screwed up not just Star Wars, but her own legacy, the industry trades aren't covering the news about her retirement by celebrating her achievements. No, they are, in not so many words, asking who can the mess she left behind. The truth about what everyone really feels is coming out. Let's dive in. Before the proverbial corpse of Kathleen Kennedy's career has even gone cold, the big question is, who can replace her after she reduced Lucasfilm to a burned-out cinder? The Hollywood Reporter writes, Disney's Star Wars succession problem. Who will replace Kathleen Kennedy? Favreau? Filoni? Feige? Here's what insiders are saying about who will and who should become Disney's new Star Wars emperor. The story reads, during her tenure, Kennedy guided the Star Wars brand across many celebrated achievements, such as the franchise's return to theaters with The Force Awakens and its successful shift to TV with The Mandalorian. There ends the list of celebrated achievements. That was all, there are no more. I'm sure they would have added a third achievement if they could think of one, but they couldn't, because it would have been a variation of the first two. It's her failures that are too many to list. Case in point, the write-up continues. She has also been often criticized for the franchise's many missteps, including some lackluster movies and shows, and overseeing numerous announced and discarded projects. Yeah, that's putting it mildly. The executive, along with Disney in general, has also often been targeted by the franchise's fandom for diverse casting moves and a perceived woke agenda.
Put a chick in it, make her gay!
Ain't nothing perceived about that. That was real. Everyone knows it, and Bob Iger pushed for it, no matter how much he may regret that now. But let's move on here with the real problem, as Hollywood sees it. While Kennedy's pending retirement might be drawing cheers from fans online, insiders say that replacing the seasoned executive will be rather difficult. Some in the industry, from studio managers to representatives, believe that the company's senior leadership has done a poor job in training and elevating a next generation of Padawan executives from which to potentially tap a replacement. One reason Kathy stuck around for so long is because there is no credible alternative, said one person who has many interactions with Lucasfilm leadership. Sources say former Lucasfilm executive Rain Roberts, who was at the company for 12 years, was being groomed by Kennedy as a likely replacement. But just last week, Roberts was announced as Searchlight's new senior VP of production. Then there are the details of the job itself. Kennedy was a movie producer who ended up not only overseeing new Star Wars films, but an Indiana Jones movie, and a wide range of live-action and animated series, almost all of which ended up flopping. That was me adding that's not in the article, but I thought it was important to mention. The article continues, it's a role that is less creative in nature and more blandly managerial than outsiders realize. What people don't understand is that it's not a creative job, says one producer with ties to Star Wars. That's about 10%. The rest of it is dealing with Disney, licensing, and fans. Well, Kennedy certainly failed at the 10% that were creative, and she failed big time in dealing with the fans. By all accounts, licensees aren't happy because Star Wars merchandise isn't selling anymore, which is what happens when you fail at the 10% of the job that was creative and in dealing with the fans. The only thing that remains then is dealing with Disney, i.e. being a politician. Since Kennedy still hasn't been fired after a list of failures that is long enough to cover the Great Wall of China, we do have to grant that she was successful in that one regard, being a politician in her dealings with Disney. Sadly, she turned out to be a politician of the kind that empties the treasure chest and takes off, without really doing anything for those whom she on paper is supposed to serve. So, who could replace her? The Hollywood Reporter proposes the following candidates, which are being discussed within Hollywood. Jon Favreau. We all know his successes, but as pointed out by the piece, Kennedy's job is less about being creative than being a manager. He won't want to be an executive, predicts one observer. Next, they suggest Dave Filoni, about whom they write, Mentored by Lucas himself, Filoni is beloved by the franchise's fandom, who see the passionate writer-director as one of their own, who gradually managed to become a major player in the Star Wars dream factory. And that they would actually put that on print only goes to show just how out of touch The Hollywood Reporter is. First of all, Filoni was never mentored by George Lucas per se, and the rest may have been partially true 5 years ago, when my colleague Tom was one of the few lone voices who didn't trust Filoni. But now, many Disney Plus series, a dad bod Thrawn who is also an idiot, and many lesbian space witches later, Dave Filoni has irrevocably lost the trust, faith and goodwill of the fans. The Hollywood Reporter continues praising him though, writing, "He's a great resource of knowledge, but he's ultimately a TV guy," says one source. "He'll be killed by all sides." Yeah, ain't that the truth? And yet, one source tells The Hollywood Reporter that Filoni is already Disney's choice to succeed Kennedy and predicts his ascendancy will be announced at Star Wars Celebration in April. This has not been confirmed by others, however. If that were to happen, I doubt there will be much rejoicing among the fans. But if it does, you've been warned. The Hollywood Reporter then proceeds to suggest a pairing of Filoni and Favreau, kind of like Gunn and Safran over at DC, and Kevin Feige, about whom they say, "Many insiders believe the best candidate for the job is Marvel Studios topper Feige, who has shown an uncanny ability to balancing corporate needs with an understanding of a core IP. He's a major Star Wars fan too. He was even slated to produce a Star Wars movie until his project, like so many others under Kennedy's tenure, was scrapped." But in some ways, Feige's moment of opportunity has passed. The ideal time for Feige to seize the Star Wars empire's throne was after the mic drop that was the back-to-back blockbuster Avengers movies, 2018's Infinity War and 2019's Endgame, back when Marvel was at the zenith. Since, Marvel has suffered, partly because Feige has been stretched thin by the overly ambitious content demands of Disney+, but mostly because he went every bit as woke as Kathleen Kennedy. Again, that was me saying that, not The Hollywood Reporter, although they should have mentioned it. But because of that, Marvel is in deep trouble now as well. But if he were to step away from that to focus on Star Wars, leaving someone else to fix his mess over at Marvel, now having learned what doesn't work and applying that to Star Wars. Let me know what you think about that in the comments. Then, The Hollywood Reporter concludes their piece by suggesting J.J. Abrams and J.J. Abrams' acolyte Hannah Minghella and Emma Watts, who said she would, but never managed to fix Star Trek, so quite the dream team there. Though, to be fair, I don't think any of them could do worse than what already was done under Kennedy. As for me, I would rather they wait. If they appoint a new head of Lucasfilm right now, regardless of who, Bob Iger would be the one doing the appointing. And that's a problem, because he was involved in the creation of the sequel trilogy, and therefore he has a stake in its success and legacy, which is the only reason why a Rey movie is even in development, even though no one wants it. As such, I would rather Disney wait until Bob Iger has left the building. And then the new Disney CEO, whoever that ends up being, should appoint a new head of Lucasfilm. The reason I want that is because depending on who that new CEO turns out to be, there is a chance that they have no ties to the sequel trilogy, and therefore are able to recognize that the only path forward is to do to all things Disney Star Wars what Disney already did to the EU, and for that matter, the Willow Revival series. That is, strike it from canon, pretend it never happened, and start over using the original movies as the foundation. Whomever they choose to replace Kathleen Kennedy, until someone is able to make that call, there can be no comeback for Star Wars. Do you agree or disagree with that? Let me know in the comments.